I was drinking a lot during the time that in my early marriage, during my earlier years of my marriage, um, and it affected my children. It affected my children. I have no bones about talking about that because that's what happened. It almost destroyed our family in some cases. You know, um, you know, um, sad state of affairs really. Um, it wasn't until many years later that I began to have some sense of control of who I was and so on that um, I began to admit certain things were wrong with me in terms of my own health, in terms of my own spiritual well-being, my outlook on life. Um, yes, I was a reporter, I was working, I was on the surface visibly okay, but deep inside, I was not okay. I was not okay. Well, what I see is children who were abused in their own way. My son will talk about that. Um, uh, the as you would say, not the physical or sexual abuse or anything like that, but the emotional, the mental abuse that they endured watching um, their father um, in a state that was not good, was not healthy, and and yet their mother was such a strong pillar, um, someone that they uh, hung on to with dear life in terms of uh, what I didn't give um, to them as a father. I tried, um, but at the same time, I now know that um, the residential school system took my ability to be a loving father away. See, when you institutionalize a child at a very early age, take them from their loving, nurturing family, which is a God-given right, um, and place them in these institutions without a mother, without a father, knowing that their mothers and fathers are back home, um, and being brought up by a dormitory supervisor, and in my case, who was an abuser, a sexual abuser, like, how then did many of us who went through that system become good parents? How could we? Um, and some of the effects, you know, we didn't understand what love was. We didn't know how to give love or how to receive love. Because we never had that in a normal family setting. That part of it was taken away. And the sad part of it was that for many of us, we couldn't be good parents. So I was not a good father. I had abused alcohol and I had all this rage and anger in me that came out at times when I was not myself, when I was under the heavy influence of alcohol, supposedly numbing my pain and that kind of thing. And so that affected my children. I think in 1990, after the public disclosure by now my good friend Phil Fontaine, uh, I really still didn't talk to Margaret in any meaningful way about what had happened. Um, uh, it was sometime after the disclosure that I did finally tell her that this is really what this is about, at least in terms of what Phil Fontaine's disclosure was all about. You know, remember telling her I too was abused sexually in residential school and physically. But more importantly, I wanted her to know that I was sexually abused, and perhaps a lot of my issues at the time, my anger and my drinking and so on, was as a result of that hidden um, secret of mine that I had carried with me, and and I know when I look back at it now, that was a very difficult thing for her to understand. It was a very difficult issue to even begin to comprehend, because she came from a very loving family, and she came from an extended family. I did too, but the residential school system was happened to get in the way of my good life at the time. But and so it was very difficult for her to begin to comprehend what had happened, and for her to accept or to understand what was happening in our family, and particularly what was happening to the young kids, to our young kids at the time. But you know, I, best as I could, I loved my children through it all. That is one thing I can say for sure, is that I loved my children through it all.